Hi there, thanks for joining me on this tropical weather impact. I'm meteorologist Peyton Malone. You're looking at the skyline of New Orleans off towards the Gulf waters here as things are nice and quiet in the northern Gulf. We are wrapping up the month of September on a quiet note here locally, but the tropics still active as we are still tracking our two named storms off the East Coast. The latest update as of this Tuesday morning is we do have now Hurricane Imelda. This is our fourth hurricane of the season. Hurricane Humberto, boy, did it have a fall from grace from being a powerful Category 5 to whatever you want to call that, an unorganized tropical system battling some sheer and dry air. And this is a classic case of two tropical systems being close to each other. They're interacting, and eventually Imelda is going to make a hard right turn right behind Humberto. And so Humberto and Imelda still not a direct threat to the United States other than some life-threatening rip current risk and rough seas there along the East Coast. Again, for the Gulf, it is nice and quiet. Now, this weekend, we may actually have some disturbed weather in the Gulf. I'm going to talk about that coming up later on here in the episode, and it's not really tropical, but it could bring us some rain here to the northern Gulf. So let's start with Imelda. It became a hurricane earlier this morning. It's a Cat 1. It's continuing to organize here as it's starting to make that turn. The official tracks continuing to take Humberto to the north, out to sea it goes, missing Bermuda. But look at this. This is something interesting. It is very rare for the island nation of Bermuda to have a direct impact or direct landfall from a named storm, and they are still right in the center of the cone. Now remember, these things can come in on any side of the cone here, but the center of it's still locked in right near and right over the island. That will be making landfall near the island as a hurricane more than likely by Wednesday night. Now they're going to start to see some outer squalls Wednesday during the day, but the core of the storm somewhere in here into Wednesday night and early Thursday morning as it fairly quickly passes on by. So hurricane conditions are looking likely for the island there starting Wednesday night. Really, that's the worst of it there, and then by Thursday things are beginning to improve as Imelda pushes away from the island. You can see there are high-resolution models show this hurricane going over the island by, we're talking during the overnight hours. This would be Thursday. It may be strengthening some, so it could be a strengthening Cat 1 into a Cat 2. This is going to pose a wind risk to the island there. Winds could be gusting over 100 miles an hour if that storm can actually get its act together and pass over the island, and then out to sea it goes. This is by Thursday at lunchtime. Things will greatly improve out there for Bermuda, and Imelda and Humberto, goodbye. They will be gone. And so that's what's going on there. We do have hurricane watches for the island right now, Bermuda. I do think these will likely be upgraded to hurricane warnings at some point today with landfall expected, or at least in the proximity of the island, in the next little over 24 hours, closer to 36 hours. That's when they'll see the worst of the conditions. Now, again, for the United States, it's more of those impacts from big waves. Still some rain along the East Coast, but no significant wind problems. But look at this. With two named storms out in the Atlantic, things are rocking and rolling. The seas are high out near Humberto. They are still getting higher up towards now Hurricane Imelda as that storm continues to strengthen. You can see as we go out in time, we don't really start to see big improvements along the East Coast, but once we get into Thursday and Friday, we will start to see improvements right along the coast, but further out in the Atlantic, it's still going to be rocking and rolling here with seas well over 10 to 15 feet over a large span. And so if you're getting on a boat anywhere in this area, it's going to be rather unsettled all the way into the end of this week. This is Friday afternoon. You can see almost the entire western Atlantic basin has rough seas, whereas the Gulf starting to get a bit choppier as winds begin to pick up later this week in the Gulf here. So that's what's going on out in the tropics with our two named storms. Here back on the northern Gulf, we're getting you ready for maybe some rain this weekend. This is going to be the first weekend of October. This is when we start to see festival season really ramp up across our region, and so you need to be aware that there will be a chance for rain. Now, at the moment, it's not a slam dunk of a forecast for rain, meaning there remains a lot of uncertainty. And so the highest chance I have right now, especially for the New Orleans region, will be Sunday. Now, remember, rain chances are really two parts when I'm looking at it as a forecaster. Confidence in the forecast is one part. The second part is the coverage of rain. And so if we're expecting, if the system would likely bring widespread rain to the area, I'm not going to go 100% chance of rain unless I'm 100% confident that that's going to happen. And right now where we stand is we very well could have widespread rain, but the confidence in that happening is still a bit iffy right now. And that's because this is the disturbance that's going to be slow moving. We aren't quite exactly sure where the heavier showers could actually set up with it. And so there's still some uncertainty in that part of the forecast. Again, the reason this is happening is an upper level low, not a tropical wave, not a tropical storm per se, but an upper level low spinning will help trigger widespread showers across the northern Gulf. There's probably going to be some surface features that are trying to develop, but since this is going to be tied up in an upper level low, I don't think it's really ever going to be truly tropical in nature. That doesn't change a whole lot with regard to maybe impacts, but meteorologically speaking, if it's hybrid or if it's non-tropical, it doesn't get a name, essentially. And so what we'll be watching here is to see how it unfolds. Now, between Thursday and Friday, a lot of the rain will be in the Gulf here. We will just start to see winds pick up along the northern Gulf, so it'll be breezier towards the end of the week. There'll be a couple showers Thursday and Friday, but the better chance of rain will start along the coast and be highest out in the Gulf waters. That's through Friday, and even Saturday, I'm thinking a lot of the rain is still concentrated in the central and northern Gulf. Now, with concentrated areas of showers and storms over the very warm waters, it's possible we start to see something hybrid form, going from a non-tropical to a subtropical. Either way, we think this is going to be a sloppy mess, a weak low pressure, and if it starts to lift north, which it very well could, by the end of the weekend, Saturday night to Sunday, we may actually start to see a better chance of rain inland. Now, the big question is, if an area of low pressure forms, where does it go? That's important because if you're near the low or on the east side, you have a higher chance of seeing some rain. So if that low is tracking near New Orleans, it's possible that all the heavy rain stays just to our east. Now, if there's a low pressure that forms and moves west of us, well, then we get more of the rain. And so that's a very hard thing to try to iron out when you're 5 days out. And so that's why I'm still messaging there's a lot of uncertainty here. Please do not cancel plans this weekend. We've got a lot of events from Cruising the Coast starting on the Mississippi coast, Gretna Fest. There's all these festivals going on. There's a lot of unknowns here, but Sunday is the day that I see the best potential for some rain across the region. And then by Monday, maybe a few showers still lingering as that disturbance starts to lose its grip across our region. Now, when you look at models here, what we're doing at this point, we're recognizing the pattern supports rain, and we're looking at consistency and agreement between models. The one thing that is consistent is that typically the further south you go, the higher the rain totals. The further north you go, less and less rain in the forecast. You can see that with our European model here showing coastal regions have a higher chance of rain. Let me move this so you can see areas around the mouth of the river picking up higher totals with the European model. The GFS has had some solutions like that, but it's also had solutions where the heavier rain's just to our east. So those are just single model runs. Now, when you take all of those model runs, varying across more than just the GFS, you start to throw in the ensembles. This is what you get as a blended model forecast. You can see coastal regions are still more likely. So that's the signal we're seeing is near the coast and in the Gulf, you start to see higher totals. And you are talking about maybe over the next 7 days, parts of the Gulf seeing over 7 inches of rain, which is the most rain we've seen in our region in a long time. Now, the further north you go, you can see the signals for less and less rain. This isn't very detailed, and the reason for that is because we're not giving exact totals to towns with this graphic. It just shows you what the general thinking is. The closer you get to the coast, more rain this weekend and early next week. The further north you get, probably less rain across the region. Now, again, we were talking about this developing into a tropical system. That didn't seem very likely because it is tied up to an upper level low, which meteorologically is probably not yielding a full tropical system. So here's what you're looking at. You can see the spin in the atmosphere, whether it's tropical or non-tropical, doesn't matter. This is showing the spin or low pressure. You can see we've got some spin here with Imelda, that's Humberto. Those lift away. We've also had this little spin in the Gulf here. It hasn't really amounted to much of anything, and it is drifting south. Now, as we go out into the end of this week, Thursday and Friday, you start to see all these little blotches of red and greens. That's thanks to, well, the upper level low is nearing us, meaning there's a lot of rising motion in the atmosphere, there's instability, and you start to see all these sporadic areas of showers. Now, as those showers, those thunderstorms sit over the warm waters, you do sometimes start to see some consolidation of these low pressures, and that's what you're seeing here. You can see the GFS in red, the European in green, showing a very sloppy, unorganized, very weak low pressure. The GFS is a little further east, the Euro's a little further west. That's why the Euro has higher rain totals in Louisiana. The GFS is a little further east. That's why it has higher rain totals further into Mississippi and Alabama. And these are very minor details that we don't know which one of those is going to be right, maybe somewhere in between, but those minor differences create a big difference on what your impacts are this weekend. I don't see this being a major event for anybody, but could be some beneficial rain. And again, with all the events going on across the region, it's got our attention here for our first big rain chance we have seen in a while. We're going to keep you updated here on tropical weather impact as we go through the rest of the week. I hope everyone has a great final day to September. We're kicking off October on a hot note tomorrow. The rain this weekend and this upper level low going to bring us some minor relief. Highs will be in the 80s as we head through the weekend and into early next week. That's going to do it for this update. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Same place, same time.